Here's my completed version of the T-6 Jedi Shuttle. This combines two of the 75362 Ahsoka Tano's T-6 Jedi Shuttle. Combines two sets into one, using only parts from those two sets. Here I've got sort of this aft cabin area framed out. It was a little tricky. I used some jumper plates right over here, moved these Technic bricks, pinned them in place first, and then made this part match up with those. And also I had to put a spacer. Let's see if it's visible. So these two Technic bricks would have been 9 studs apart, which is sort of an awkward distance. So I put a little Technic spacer here and here so that they would now be 10 studs apart, and that's not as awkward a distance. Also, I put these jumper plates in place underneath here, and there's jumper plates on the other side, right here, so that this would be kind of a normal, conventional distance from these Technic bricks. And so the whole thing is 10 studs wide, and what is that, 11 studs long, I think. And then there will also be this aft gunner's cockpit. This isn't exactly how it's going to be designed, but this is pretty close. The original ship had 4 engines in the back, which seemed, I don't know, that just seems overkill. Why would a ship need 4 engines? I'm putting 2 back here. Here's a progress video, what we've got so far on the interior. Here's a little galley with a bunch of Star Wars kitchen equipment. This here is the head. Note that the toilet seat is put down because Ahsoka is a civilized person. There's a kitty. On this side, we've got a little bunk that folds down. On the underside of the ship, we can see that the walls here, they're not done yet. I'm gonna put some cool stuff on there, but this little bottom kind of fin is there. There's also a little hatch on the bottom so people can get in and out of the spaceship. Normally a loading ramp or a boarding ramp would be more appropriate for a Star Wars spaceship, but we're limited on space and parts. Also note these landing gear. They work pretty well, so the ship can land comfortably. It's got 3 points of contact, but we can fold up those landing gear so they're relatively unobtrusive for when the ship is in flight mode. I had hoped to use this second cockpit cover, this glass canopy, for the aft gunner's compartment and to orient it like this, but that would interfere with the rotation of the wings. It would just get in the way. So this is gonna have to be oriented like this, which is too bad because it looks like it's just a second cockpit, but what are you gonna do? So let's have a little tour. So here's the cockpit, and there's Hu Yang driving the thing. This is original to the set, so I didn't build this. So I can blame Lego for not providing quite enough room for Hu Yang's big head. The wings started off as original, but then I rebuilt them so that they're thicker, they're a little beefier, they're a little bit longer to fit this more robust ship. And aft we have a gunner's cockpit. So this was the second cockpit piece. I would have liked to make this a little different than the cockpit in front, but this is the limit of the parts that I had. And we see Sabine back there. It fits her, although kind of just barely. This one was my fault. It doesn't quite fit her head. And these guns stick out. I don't love the look of those guns actually, but I wanted them to be stud shooters, so this is what we've got. Here's our 2 engines, and overall, I think it looks pretty sleek. Let's have a look at the interior. So to get into the interior, we just pull this panel up, plate assembly up. It's held in place by 2 studs. So here's the 2 studs, here's the anti-studs. And now we get to look inside this ship. So first of all, here's Ahsoka Tano. We're gonna take her out just to be able to see in there a little better. You're gonna see some cat hairs here and there, so sorry about that. Here's a fold down bunk. And that's just in case you wanna take a nap or you fall into the ocean and need to be
need to recover. I don't know how that works. Anyway, fold down bunk. There's some tools for building a lightsaber, repairing your ship, whatever you need to do. And then we turn the ship around, look at the starboard side. We've got a little Star Wars kitchen with that mug. And here's the head with a door that opens and closes. Well, barely opens and closes. Kind of have to use your imagination a little, but there's the toilet. And we also have a small rung to climb up into the gunner's turret. So now we're going to put the cover back in place, and we're going to look at the underside for just a moment so that we can see the little boarding, I don't know, hatch, I guess? Boarding hatch, that's what it's called. And there's also landing gear, which I showed in parts of the build video, so these can fold up, and they give the ship a tripod of support, so 1, 2, 3 legs to sit on. But of course, the big cool thing that the ship can do is the wing rotatey thing, and it can still do that. So we get this cool, sort of impractical wing thing. It looks nice though, doesn't it? And then on the other side, just as with the original Lego model, there's not a whole lot of detail on the anti-stud side, but I did attempt to use a few parts to give it something, to give it a little, to zhuzh it up a little bit. So that's what we did. So there it is. This was a fun build. I really love combining two sets into one bigger, or in some way better, perhaps better, version of the original. This is a nice way to just sit in front of the TV and not have to worry about finding tons of parts everywhere. All the parts that I've got available for building this are right in the box, and there's no other options. And having that limitation is a fun challenge. And in some cases, like this T-6 Jedi shuttle, I think it turned out pretty well.